Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a life um, really marked by this profound, relentless sorrow. A private pain poured out in, well, just a desperate prayer.
And a promise, too, made in that anguish, that would demand just an extraordinary act of faith later on.
Exactly. It's a story that really launches one of the Bible's most significant books, introducing figures and events that they reshape pretty much everything that follows.
It really does set the stage.
Absolutely. Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're plunging into the very beginning of that story, the first chapter of 1 Samuel. It feels so intensely personal, this chapter.
Mm-hmm. Rooted in one woman's struggle.
Yeah, but its ripples, they just extend across history. Our goal today is, well, to explore the depths of this chapter, try to understand the people, their conflicts, and the powerful weight of, what unfolds.
And the text starts by painting a pretty vivid picture of the setting, the key individuals. We meet Elkanah, right? An Ephraimite from Romahaman.
Right, and we immediately learn his routine. He makes this yearly pilgrimage from his town to worship and offer sacrifice, and this takes him to Shiloh.
Okay, and Shiloh's important here.
Yeah, the account tells us Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas, they're serving as priests of the Lord there. So straight away, you get the religious context, the specific place of worship. It's all laid out.
And crucial to Elkanah's household, and really central to this whole story, is that he has two wives, Peninnah and Hannah.
Now, polygamy wasn't unheard of then, but it often created these really complex, often painful dynamics within families.
Which is exactly what we see happening here.
And the core of Hannah's pain, her specific struggle, it's laid bare right from the start. Peninnah had children, Hannah did not.
And the text is just unflinching about it. It states directly that the Lord had closed her womb.
That phrase is, wow, it's incredibly significant, isn't it?
It is. It doesn't put it down to chance or some medical thing. It frames it squarely in a divine context, which, raises the stakes of Hannah's prayer later on immensely.
Definitely. We also see Elkanah's actions during the sacrifice, when he's handing out portions of the sacrifice meal.
He gives portions to Peninnah and all her kids. Standard practice.
But for Hannah, it's different. He gives her a double portion, and we're told specifically why. Because he loved her.
So even in this really difficult situation, his affection for Hannah is kind of highlighted publicly.
Yeah, through this public act. But this brings us right into the agonizing dynamics of their family life.
Because the fact that Elkanah shows favor to Hannah, maybe he intended it to comfort her, signal his love. It doesn't actually resolve the tension, does it?
Not at all. In fact, it seems like it might even fuel the rivalry.
Yeah, the narrative really pulls no punches here. It says Peninnah, her rival, just kept provoking her repeatedly.
And the intent is stated so clearly in order to irritate her because she was barren. This wasn't just like an unfortunate side effect. It was active, deliberate cruelty.
And what really stands out is the cyclical nature of this torment. The text emphasizes this wasn't just a one-off.
No. It happened year after year, every time they went up to Shiloh for the festival.
So the place of worship, which should have been about, communal joy and connecting with God,
became the backdrop for her deepest private agony, year after year.
You can almost feel the weight of that repetition. It wasn't just sadness. It was like a chronic annual trauma tied to this really significant religious event.
And Hannah's response. Well, we read she would weep bitterly. She'd refuse to eat. Her emotional distress just manifested physically.
And we see Elkanah trying to step in, trying to comfort his wife, the one he loves.
But his words, they seem to come from love, but they highlight this poignant disconnect.
Yeah, he asks, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Basic questions.
And then he reveals his perspective on what maybe should matter most to her. He asks, don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?
Ooh, that question is so telling, isn't it?
It really is. From his point of view, maybe his love, his presence, that should be enough comfort.
But it perhaps misses the profound depth of her specific pain, her longing for a child, which was just incredibly significant in that culture, tied to identity, purpose, family line.
Exactly. It really illustrates how even deep love can sometimes fail to fully grasp another person's unique suffering.
His love seems genuine, no doubt, but it can't just erase the pain inflicted by her rival or that specific grief of barrenness.
So this painful cycle repeats. But then one particular year, something changes dramatically. After they finish eating and drinking at Shiloh, Hannah gets up.
And she goes to the temple area. Eli the priest, he's there sitting on his chair near the doorpost. And what happens next is this incredibly intimate, raw moment of prayer.
Yeah, the text describes her state. She is in bitterness of soul. She wept uncontrollably, praying to the Lord. This wasn't like a calm, measured request.
No, it was torn from the depths of intense suffering. You can just picture her there, pouring out her heart, her anguish, totally visible.
And in that moment, that absolute desperation, she makes a vow. It's conditional, yes, if you
Yeah.
will, but it carries immense weight.
She pleads with God, saying, "If you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son." That's the plea.
The fervent plea.
Yeah.
The if and the then part is just astonishing.
"Then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head."
Wow. That's dedication.
Yeah.
Promising to return the very child she so desperately wants for lifelong service to God. Marked by this symbol, the razor thing, it's like a Nazarite vow. Total dedication.
It feels almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? Praying for the very thing causing her such pain, and promising to give it away entirely if she receives it.
Makes you wonder about the depth of her faith right then. Or maybe just the sheer extent of her desperation.
And while she's praying like this, with all this intensity, Eli the priest is watching her.
And this leads to this striking misunderstanding. Hannah's praying so emotionally, but it's silent outwardly.
Right. The account says her lips were moving, but her voice wasn't heard. She was praying in her heart.
And Eli, well, he sees the distress, he sees the moving lips, but hears nothing. So he jumps to the wrong conclusion.
He thinks she's drunk.
Yeah, and he confronts her directly, pretty sharply too. How will you keep on getting drunk? Get rid of your wine.
It's a harsh judgment, right? Based entirely on his external observation and, well, misinterpreting her internal state.
But Hannah's response, it's incredibly dignified. She clarifies everything immediately, doesn't really get defensive.
No, she just says, "Not so, my lord. I am a woman who is deeply troubled." She explains, "I haven't been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord."
She connects her outward appearance directly to her inward anguish. Don't take your servant for a wicked woman. I've been praying here out of my great anguish and grief.
It's such a powerful declaration. Her innocence, the real source of her emotion.
And this is the turning point, isn't it? Eli hears her explanation. He gets it.
And his response just transforms completely from judgment.
It's a blessing. He says, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him.
It's a word of peace, of hope. It validates her prayer, holds out that possibility of fulfillment.
And the effect on Hannah, it's described as immediate, profound.
Yeah, the text says she found favor in Eli's eyes. Then she went her way and ate something, and her face is no longer downcast.
Think about that contrast. From weeping, not eating, face etched with sorrow.
To eating, and her face brightened. This internal shift, finding peace before the promise is physically fulfilled, that's remarkable.
It really signifies a deep inner change, doesn't it? A release of that heavy burden she carried year after year.
The anguish sort of gives way to this quiet confidence, this peace, anticipating the answer.
So the story then moves quickly towards the physical fulfillment of her prayer.
Early the next morning, they get up, they worship, head back home to Ramah.
And the text is very specific, very direct about what happens next. Elkanah lay with Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her.
And that phrase, "the Lord remembered her," it echoes Hannah's own prayer, right? She pleaded with God to remember me and not forget your servant.
It's the direct link. Her anguished plea, the divine response. Beautifully put.
And the outcome is exactly what she asked for. The birth of a son. Hannah conceives, gives birth.
And she names him Samuel. The reason for the name is right there in the text. Because I asked the Lord for him.
His very name becomes a memorial to her prayer, to God's faithfulness.
So the first part of the vow, asking for and getting the son, is fulfilled. But then comes the second part, maybe the even harder part.
The promise she made to give him back.
Right. The next year, Elkanah goes up again with his family for the annual sacrifice. And the text says to fulfill his vow too, maybe something separate he'd promised.
But Hannah doesn't go with them this time, not initially. She has a plan for fulfilling her own vow about Samuel.
She tells Elkanah her intention. She's going to wait until the boy is weaned. Then she'll take him to present him to the Lord.
And her purpose is crystal clear. He will live there always. This isn't just the temporary thing. It's a permanent dedication of her son to service at the temple.
Wow. That must have been agonizing. To raise the child you longed for so deeply, maybe for 2-3 years.
Only to then give him away. Permanently.
But Elkanah supports her. The text shows his agreement. He tells her, basically, do what seems best to you. Stay here until you've weaned him. Only may the Lord make good his word.
His agreement is really vital here. It shows he accepts the solemnity of her vow, trusts the divine context of this incredible commitment they're making.
So Hannah stays home, nurses Samuel until he's weaned. And after he's weaned, she follows through. She carries out her promise.
The text says she took the boy with her, young as he was, back to the house of the Lord at Shiloh.
And this isn't some quiet, unnoticed act either. She brings a substantial sacrifice with her. A 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, a skin of wine.
Yeah, it indicates the seriousness, the costliness of this act of dedication. It's a big deal.
So they sacrifice the bull, and then she brings the boy to Eli. And in this really powerful moment, she reminds him of their previous encounter. Brings it all full circle.
She says, "As surely as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord." Just imagine Eli's reaction then.
Right. And she connects the prayer directly to its fulfillment. I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. It's like, here's the proof, witnessed by the guy who initially misunderstood her completely.
And then she speaks the fulfillment of her side of the vow, the part that required such incredible faith and sacrifice.
So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life, he will be given over to the Lord. Just a clear, unwavering statement of dedication.
And the chapter closes with that simple yet incredibly powerful statement, and he worshiped the Lord there.
Which likely refers to Elkanah,
Right.
participating alongside Hannah in this final act of presentation, worship, confirming their shared commitment.
Yeah. This single chapter, 1 Samuel 1, it's just packed with such intense human emotion, such spiritual depth.
You see the raw pain of barrenness, the cruelty of rivalry,
The intensity of that desperate prayer, the striking moment of misunderstanding.
divine remembrance, fulfillment, the profound weight of making and keeping a really difficult promise.
And ultimately, this incredible act of dedication, it's all in there.
And thinking about Hannah's promise, her commitment, it wasn't abstract, was it? This was the child she wept for, the answer to her deepest longing, the source of her relief, her joy.
And she willingly gave him back, as she had vowed years earlier in her pain. That takes immense faith, immense strength to follow through.
It really does make you pause, doesn't it? And consider that kind of commitment. What does it truly mean to give something, or even someone, back to the source they came from?
Especially after such deep longing, such struggle, what does that level of dedication reveal about, well, about priorities, about faith, about what we hold most dear?
It's definitely a powerful question to carry with us as we move forward from the very first chapter of this incredible book.